Hello YouTube, I am Jordan Lyongale, and here I'm going to talk about something that I'm a little bit angry or annoyed about, and that is math symbols. Now, the math symbols I have a problem with are the ones that just look too similar to other symbols. Here I've drawn up some of the symbols that are rather common. Now, some of these are not math symbols. Some of these are they may look the same, or they just may be other ways of writing them. But the main reason why all of these different symbols are on here is because they either look like another symbol and they're very similar, or they're the exact same. So I'm going to start here on the bottom. Right now, we have our ones list here. And so we have your one, and this is the fancier one with like the hat and then the shoes and stuff. You have your one that's just quick. You have your L, your lowercase l, and you have your sometimes capital I, depending on what font you're using or just who's writing it. Now, these are very annoying sometimes whenever let's say you're reading something, you're writing something, and you want to use a 1. Instead of just writing the word, you then just write one of these. Well, you can't write one of these unless you use this one, and this one takes more time to use than one of these, and so it can be very annoying sometimes to get between the differences. I'm not going to go over so much more the letter aspect of these, but these can be very annoying as well, and that's something that really should not have been done with these. Moving on up, we have the circle and the 0. Now, there are other ways to write zeros, like you can do a circle and then just do a line through it, but that can look like a cancel sign, and so you see that's another symbol it might look like. So my big problem with these is that a lot of times the 0 in fonts is more like a thinner, like an oval, and the circle, or you have the O, that's more like um, just a perfect 360 circle. Now, I cannot draw a perfect 360 circle very easily, so this is the closest I'm doing. But it gets annoying, especially since you have like the lowercase o. So you have you have capital O, you have your lowercase o, and then we go and move on to the 0, and they're all basically the same symbol. And it's even gotten to the point where it's like, somebody might be like 101 instead of saying 101. And I just feel like that is not the cleanest way of doing symbols, and that should be changed. But the best way of doing that is just to start doing something like that through these, just to go and give some kind of differentiation between the symbols. Now, the next one is not the biggest problem in the world, and just generally depends on how somebody writes them. Generally, when people are writing the multiplication symbol, one of the options for multiplication symbols, and then the decimal, is usually they'll go and make the uh, multiplication symbol a little bit bigger, and they'll make their decimal symbol a little bit smaller to even further give difference. And this is supposed to be in the middle, whereas this thing's supposed to be on the bottom. But sometimes, if you're writing really small or something like that, you can get confused between these two, and it's really bad when you miss an entire problem, or you can't solve a problem because of a single error, like the plus or minus error with positive negative, or you might have an error where you accidentally misread your multiplication symbol instead of a decimal, and etc. etc. Speaking of multiplication symbols, here we have the multiplication symbol. Normally, I think in school they teach you this to be in the middle of wherever you're writing, and then you have like an X, and that could be on the full. Both I'm doing on both of these lines here, or you might have it just on the bottom part, and that is okay, except for the fact that look how close these are. Your X's are so close to your multiplication symbol, and then in math, they tell you first start doing like functions like this and this. There we go. You already have an x. You have your variable. And then they go even further on to where you have f of x. And look, we have f of x and x and x. Well, wait, no, this is a multiplication symbol. Oh, wait, no, it's an x. It's confusing, and it makes it so multiplication has had to go and create the dot symbol. It's had to create it's starting to have to use parentheses as another way, and this is how I generally do multiplication at this point, because I just find it's the least confusing, although it's the most complicated of the ways. Although in small, when you're just doing like one parentheses, it's not too bad. Uh, Speaking of parentheses, here we go. We have the C, we have the parentheses. Now the parentheses isn't used. Depending on how you write your C's, it's not really a big problem. but sometimes somebody might write their C a little bit less. That looks like a parentheses. Or somebody might write their parentheses. They might give it a little bit too much of a curve at the bottom. And then when people are writing fast, this can get like it can become more extreme, more exaggerated, and there can be confusion. And now normally in math, you don't have too much of a problem unless you're doing a function and your variable is like C or something like that. But you see, even then, it can kind of look a little bit bad. It's not the best. So then we move on to t's. Now we have the plus symbol, you have your t's. Both of these are used in math all the time. Generally, people don't use this one because it looks too similar to that one, which basically proves my point exactly. So we have your t's, then moving on to having this hook at the end, which makes it look kind of like a J in a way, but backwards. And oh well. But the problem is the T is supposed to have the line in the middle, well, whereas the plus is supposed to have the line in the middle. The T is supposed to have the line at the top. And when you're writing fast, and most people don't even do this, like when I write my T's, I normally just write them like that, and that's maybe slightly more towards the top, but a lot of times I can get really confused with your plus symbols, and just to avoid confusion, I find an easy way just to avoid this, because the symbols, at least from my level of math, it's never really been used, is the capital T. So whenever you do like your physics questions and stuff, and you have f of t, just do a capital T. It makes more difference. Instead of having that weird plus at the top with a little curve that you have to pay attention to, you just have a completely different looking symbol. So that's a better way of doing your capital T's, I feel. Now this last one is not the biggest problem in the world, the one I have the least amount of problem with actually. And that's you have your hyphen, you have your dash, you have your subtraction symbol, and you have your minus symbol. Now, usually these are a little bit different lengths, slightly, but that length, it's with different people and speed writing, except for maybe in fonts, it really is, you can't really tell what's what. So, you have your hyphens that can go between, like at the end of like a word, you're writing on a line and you just want to write to the next line, so you just have your hyphen. You have your dash, that can be for like using dates instead of a slash and stuff like that. Then we have like our minus symbol and your subtraction symbol, and I'm probably getting these confused, but that just proves my point here. So the minus symbol, this is not as big a problem, except for whenever you do like, let's say x minus x, and so let's just say that x then is a negative number, so we have -1 minus -1, and that would then translate to -1 plus 1. And you just know that whenever you see these two together, you then just turn it into an addition symbol. Now that can be a little bit annoying, and I really feel like if we just had something for this minus symbol just to turn into, instead of just being the same old dash, and I realized why they do it, because they also use the plus sign for positive, and I just feel like they could have made a slight variation. Like even with what they did with the T, I mean, at least that's a slight variation. So with the dash, not the dash, the minus, you could have, something like that, just a little hook right there at the end of your minus symbol, and then you could say, well, we have a negative. You're subtracting a negative x, and you would know maybe because of this hook that that's already a negative. Now, these are not all the symbols that people might have problems with. If you have other problems, you can comment below. But I feel like these are some of the bigger ones. I'm currently in calculus right now, and I just find that although I have found some ways to help fix some of these, like with the parentheses even, I don't have a way of fixing that. And there's not really any good way with our symbol set, and it's just a little bit annoying to have to deal with that. If you disagree, feel free to say so. If you agree, feel free to say so as well. If you like my video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like my videos, subscribe, and thank you for watching.